One moment. There we go. Okay. Don't need the computer trying to guess what every word we're saying.
Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and get started then. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning for this kind of presentation of the. I keep wanting to say Sut System, but System's already a part of Sut, so I'll double up a little bit on that one. But the Sales and Use Tax System demonstration, and Senator Rob Woodward is going to join us here to begin and kind of talk a little bit about how the system came to be and how it's doing so far. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a lay of the land, you start off on mute, but feel free to unmute yourself at any time if you'd like to ask a question of Senator Woodward, or when the Department of Revenue joins us for the presentation. You'll just have to tap that icon in the top right, or there is a chat box you can see as well, and just go ahead and enter any chat questions you might have as well, and I can ask those on your behalf as well. Yeah, that's about all I have for this one. If you have any and if you need any assistance during the meeting, you can also email me at jake.bronger@nfib.org. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Tony, to kind of get the meeting started today.
Great. Thanks, Jake, and welcome everybody to today's event. It's kind of a twofer. We're going to have Senator Woodward speaking and answering questions. And he sits on the Sales and Use Tax Simplification Legislative Task Force. So I thought he was a prime member to have on to join Department of Revenue for the Suts demonstration. We like to have these programs because we think it's important for our membership and guests like you to hear from elected officials and learn about new tools under development in hopes of making certain tasks that you're responsible for easier and more efficient. Like Jake said, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat box, use the raised hand icon at the top of your screen, or press *6 to unmute yourself. Senator Woodward is a state senator in the Colorado State House, and he was elected to the Senate in November 2018. Represents Senate District 15, which is up in northern Colorado, the Loveland area. The senator and his wife Paula have been married since 1991, 3 children. And Senator Woodward, like many of you, is a small business owner and also an NFIB member. Senator Woodward owns several franchise businesses in Colorado, Wyoming, and Nebraska. And to the senator's credit, and with our great thanks, the senator led the charge when it came to providing liability protection for small businesses stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic during last session. Unfortunately, the majority party was able to block Senator Woodward's efforts, but hopefully he won't give up on the task. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Rob Woodward.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good to be with y'all today. I don't know I'm guessing most of the participants listening in today are small business owners as well, and I'm sure that you guys face some of the same issues that I do. So Tony mentioned that I'm a small business person on the side as a citizen legislator. I still oversee and manage several Subway franchises, some juice shops, and just a whole bunch of other small businesses. I've done that for about 30 years. And it was really from that business background that I saw an opportunity to jump into the state Senate and provide a voice to small business. Literally, there's just a handful of people who have ever started and run a business down at the Capitol. So a lot of times, I'm the only voice in the room when it comes to what it's really like to hire employees, start a new business, go out and apply for a loan, what the work environment's like. So I've really enjoyed the opportunity to sort of speak on behalf of small business people. NFIB, I've been a member for a long, long time. And between Tony, and then the voices of a lot of you reaching out to me when it comes to issues that you're facing, I've had the chance to run several pieces of legislation to try to make things a little bit easier for small business. The first year I got there was soon after a decision by the Supreme Court called the Wayfair decision that said if you are selling from out of state into the state of Colorado, all of a sudden you had to pay sales tax, and it sort of clarified things. One of the things that it did, though, is it gave those out-of-state companies an exemption so that if they sold less than $100,000 worth of product into the state of Colorado, they didn't have to really worry about sales taxes. So that continued to give those out-of-state companies, the big Amazons and others, a chance to really undercut small businesses in the state of Colorado. So just in an effort to try to put things kind of on the same footing, I tried to run a bill that said, you know what, if out-of-state companies get a $100,000 exemption, in-state companies should get the same thing. Unfortunately, that bill died. That was my first committee bill. I've been trying to run things along those lines for the last couple of years, and it's tough to get that small business voice. So I hope that all of you on this call take the opportunity to reach out to your representatives and senators and make sure that they understand how hard it is to run a business these days. One of the reasons I looked forward to today's call is it gave me a chance to get out of my business. We are shorthanded. I make sandwiches every day because we can't find enough staff to run those businesses. I'm sure most of you are kind of in that same situation. The primary topic we're here to talk about today is the Suts system. Most of you know that Colorado literally is the most complicated sales tax state in the entire country. Why did that come up? We're a little bit in like the Old West. We like to see local control. So for the last several decades, we've allowed cities, counties, special districts to really come up with their own system of taxation. Some communities might decide to tax, we'll say, food in a different way than they tax toiletries, than they tax all these other things. And that worked fine back in the day when we were really just a Main Street state where businesses took place across the counter from the guy running the cash register. But as times have evolved, y'all know that online business delivery has really complicated what that looks like. So several years ago, I think we're looking, Tony, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, the state set out to establish this Suts system, sales and use tax simplification. So it's been the charge of this committee, not only elected legislators, but lots of private citizens as well, to come together and develop a system, kind of a one-stop shop, where if you operate or sell into the state of Colorado, there would be a way for you to know what tax rate to charge someone if you're delivering product, to be able to remit those sales taxes to the appropriate place, and to have all the licenses that you need, again, all in the same place, to try to make it easier on small business so that we don't have to spend all of our time in the office pushing paper, applying for licenses, worried that we're going to make a mistake and sell a $10 item into Manitou Springs without having the correct $200 license and then get in trouble and face fines and other things. So our state has really stepped forward with this Suts system, and I think you're going to find out from the Department of Revenue in a few minutes that we're just getting it kicked off. It's really getting off the ground right now so that folks can begin to access it and begin to use it. So far, I've been impressed with the way the Suts process has been adopted by local governments. So we're getting most home rule cities, counties, and everybody to participate in the system. We're pushing 80 or 90% of the folks in the state now use the system. What we're not seeing, and one of the things that we are pushing back on the Department of Revenue is we're not seeing businesses use it yet. So part of the purpose for this call is to make sure that everybody's aware that this system exists and encourage folks to try to give it a shot. Because I think that if we adopt it, particularly with those businesses that sell products and services statewide, that this is going to be a one-stop shop, a place that you can go, charge folks the right sales tax, easily and more cheaply remit the sales taxes, stay on the right side of the law. So I'm looking forward to the demonstration that the Department of Revenue is going to give us today. I have not had a chance to use it myself. My businesses, we don't deliver very much across city lines or county lines. So I've really had to rely on other folks who are doing it. So anytime during this presentation, I'm going to be with you for the next hour. Happy to take questions. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Jake and Tony.
All righty. Questions for the senator. Thank you so much for your opening, Senator, and hopefully our members who are on so far have some questions for you. We have roughly about 15 minutes before Department of Revenue comes on, so we have to. And I didn't tune up the banjo this morning, so I can't rely on that. So if there are questions, please raise your hand, or you can type them in the chat box. Jake, do you see anything? Diane?
Diana has a question. Yep.
Okay.
I'm just asking, I mean, obviously what we've tried to do is create a new foundation, which was the big monster part of doing this. One of the things I've been kind of trying to follow was this new tax policy committee and task force that started meeting, I think, in August. And one of the topics they really want to discuss and explore is kind of gradually introducing taxation of services. And I think everyone agrees it's going to be a very messy process because they're trying to find kind of ways to do it gradually and choose particular industries or businesses that are already familiar with sales taxes on tangible goods that might offer some combination. So it's not such a big jump for them to go from reporting sales tax on tangible goods to reporting sales tax on services. So from your perspective and what you've seen, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with this new system. Do you think that it's kind of set up to take on new challenges like this?
Diane, thanks for that question. And there is an insatiable appetite under the dome to generate more sales taxes, tax anything that moves, because we, the legislature, and I'm going to exclude me and a few of the folks that I work with, think that we know better what to do with your money than you do. So there will constantly be this push to try to figure out what else we can tax. I don't sit on this tax committee. There's an effort I know underway to eliminate lots of tax credits to try to simplify the system. And I'm all for, let's make the taxation process a little less complicated across the board, easier to use, and stop showing favoritism. But I think that if we let folks open this door and begin to tax new services, I think that's dangerous because there is no end to beginning to tax you and I for working. So it's taxing us for our labor, spending a portion of our life. So I think it's a dangerous prospect, and I hope that we nip it in the bud. Surely there will be some constitutional challenges to it because it's really a new tax. We have we have a sales tax on product that has really been around for a long time and sort of in history and been on the books. But to tax services, that's a brand new idea. And I think that there would be lots of constitutional challenges, particularly around TABOR, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And I don't think that they could easily implement this without seeing some of those challenges on a constitutional basis. So they're probably tiptoeing around, and like all things, if they open the door just a little bit, they'll try to make it happen that way. So that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up so that we can keep it on our in our sights.
If I can take the time to add one additional little point, is one thing that they had at the beginning of this process was they invited legislative legal services and of course LCS, all the acronyms, oh my goodness. But they came in and they gave presentations on what the scope of authority of the tax committee would be and whether they would have to be constitutional or statutory. And this TABOR came up, and I was having trouble keeping up with it, but it's an excellent explanation. And of course, it's all in the archives of that committee's documentation. So it might be worthwhile to kind of watch him try to delineate what the freedoms are of this particular task force and the committee.
Jake, are you want to try forwarding some of those questions?
Sure. Yeah. I've got a question from Sam, and then I see Doug's hands raised. But first off, Senator, the question from Sam, his business sells pet products across multiple districts, and he says he currently files them all separately. Can they simply stop filing them individually and start using the Sut system?
Yes, that's exactly what the Sut system is designed to do, so that you can go to one-stop shop. Now, I mentioned before that we only have about 80 to 90% of the state has signed up for Suts. So in the event that he sells product into a community that hasn't adopted the Suts system yet, he may still have to file with a couple of small communities, but we're well on the way to 100%. So that should result in, a single, him logging in, filling in his sales to each district, and then writing a single check and paying it all at once. The other piece of Suts that they'll get into is when you ship a product, you will be able to rely and have safe harbor on the state's database. So if you're not exactly sure what the sales tax is if you sell to a certain address because of overlapping taxing rates, you can rely on the state's database to give you exactly what should be charged, and that will also then populate the information that you need at the end of the month in the Suts system.
Great. And Doug, you have your hand raised. Go ahead, Doug. Doug, it looks like you're on mute. You just got to unmute yourself first.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Senator, my business has got 4 brick and mortar locations. We sell into about 5 different tax.
Doug, would you mind speaking up? The only thing I heard you say is you have 4 brick and mortar locations.
Correct. We have 4 brick and mortar locations. We sell into about 20 to 25 jurisdictions. We have issues with jurisdictions where we don't sell every month, where they come back to us, say we have to file a report. 0 sales, they're going to fine us. Actually had Castle Pines fine us for not submitting 0 report sales tax. And I'm wondering, I'm not familiar with Suts, so I'm hoping that'll take care of this. Is that something that program will take care of for us?
Yeah, Doug, let me see if I got you right. And for those that couldn't hear it because it was a little faint, I heard Doug say that he has 4 brick and mortar locations, sells into about 20 districts, but those sales don't happen every single month, and he's getting in trouble or fined if he doesn't file a zero sales tax return. I've seen those before as well, and that's exactly what the Suts system will resolve for you, because you will simply, when you file your taxes each month, there will be a line item 0 that can go to those districts, and you'll be protected from that.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
And Senator, we have another question from Lori, and I know this is actually a concern of several of our members. One of the biggest challenges with the Colorado sales tax system is registering and maintaining a license in every home rule district. Does the Suts system do anything to alleviate this? And if not, is there anything potentially next year that could?
That is a phenomenal question, and today the system does not do that. I am running a bill that would do that, and it has the blessing of the committee. So there's 3 bills that I'm running around that exact issue. Well, around several issues around the sales tax, but licensing is one of those, both business and sales tax licenses, where the Suts system would allow you to apply for a single license that would cover every Suts member in the state. So it doesn't, that piece does not fit in yet today, but we're going to run legislation that would put that in place. It does have bipartisan support, so I would expect that by mid to late next year that will be put in, that it will be legal, and then it will just rely on the time it takes to get that programmed into the system. So I would say within a year, that's probably one of the pieces that we'll be able to count on.
All right, any other questions for the senator?
Hey, Jake, while you look for questions and watch for raised hands and chats and those kind of things, I don't want to kind of leave dead space. So I'm going to talk about a couple other bills that are, I think, important to the folks that are on this call. Some bills that I'm running that hopefully I can get people to step out and speak to their folks about. So one of those issues is the Unemployment Trust Fund. During the pandemic, we have not only completely exhausted the money that we had saved up in the years up to 2020, but we have now borrowed more than $1 billion from the federal government. That money has to be repaid to the feds. So the plan, unless we change the way that our budget works, the only way to begin repaying that is to charge job creators, to charge businesses, small business, an increased, and I think it will be a very substantial increase to the unemployment tax that you pay on every single one of your employees. The bill that I will be introducing in January would take some of the one-time money that we're getting back from the feds. We're getting $5.5 billion one-time money from the feds, and this is on top of all of the other money that you've heard about over the last year or two. We've just seen billions and billions pouring in, but it's taking about 1.5 billion of that money from that one-time money from the feds and putting it back into the Unemployment Trust Fund so that we can repay the federal government and put the employment fund back to the condition that it was.
You do the right thing. Huh.
Again, back to the condition that it was before the pandemic hit. What that will mean is that small business won't have to pay the huge taxes that would be required on their employees. I hope that I can get big support from Nfib and put some pressure on legislators to pass that bill. I think that's going to be the necessary step to help us recover. Believe me, there are folks at the legislature who can think of lots of other ideas, lots of other programs to start to spend that money. But before they spend it on their pet projects, I think we've got to take care of business first. Make sure that we have a safety net for those who do find themselves unemployed in the next couple of years. And then also, we don't want to increase taxes going forward. So that's one of the bills that I just wanted to call to your attention before we get too far into it. back to you, Jake. Did you have any other questions came in about this or other issues?
Do see one more, and then we can take a look, see if the department has joined us yet. But Gary has a question. If only non-taxable products such as fuel are delivered to non-physical sites, OOC, do we still need to file a sales tax return for that county?
So I'm smart enough to tell you that you should seek the advice of your attorney and accountant. Don't rely on my advice. That is unique enough that I am not an expert on fuel that I feel comfortable giving you any advice at all. Perhaps Department of Revenue, when you get them on the line here in a few minutes, will give you an answer to that.
Has anybody can you tell, Jake, if anybody from the Department of Revenue's joined us yet?
If they have, they not identified themselves in the by name as Department of Revenue, which most people don't go around introducing themselves that way, so I'm not shocked.
Okay. I'm sure they'll chime out. Senator, getting back to your proposed bill for the one-time 1.5 billion. Of course, I think there'd be no argument that we would support any attempt to backfill the UI trust fund. NFIB and the state chamber and one or two other business groups back in 2008 worked with Department of Labor in the state to actually do outside bonding to get back to a solvency position with the trust fund. And we do appreciate the governor coming out and saying that he would use 500 million from the general fund and $100 million from the one-time money. But we're going to be looking everywhere. We will support any and all attempts to get that trust fund back to where it was, because we also have the wage base increasing in 2022, which is going to put additional upwards pressure on UI premiums. So thank you for your efforts. And yes, you can be assured of our support.
Senator, we did get another question that came in from Robin. Robin asked, are marketplaces like Amazon also participating in Suts? And also, if Amazon doesn't collect amounts for home rule cities, is our company responsible for filing returns for those cities?
Thank you for that question, Robin. My understanding is that all of those companies can participate in Suts, and I believe that we hold them to the same rules that anybody else does. Now, whether a home rule city decides to pursue a marketplace vendor for not paying taxes, that's really up to each of those cities. But I believe the Sut system was really designed not only to make it easier for Colorado business, but also for out-of-state companies. We put them on the same level playing field, so it's just as complicated for them to sell product into our state, so they can participate with the Sut system as well. And so Department of Revenue, like every tax man, they're late. If we're late, we've got to pay a big fine and penalty. But one of the other things I'm going to talk about before they join, and by the way, if they're on, please forgive me for making that assumption that they're not. One other bill that I want you to keep an eye on, we ran a bill like this last year, and that is, I'll call it the Salt Parity Act. So for those of you small businesses that pay a lot in state and local income taxes, you probably noticed on your federal tax form that the feds have stopped letting you deduct the entire amount. That happened a couple of years ago. Senator Kolker and I ran a bill last year that's going to stop that limit. So you'll be able to deduct all of those state and local taxes beginning January of 22. So talk to your accountant about that. But several states have taken the lead and made this retroactive until 2018. You're going to see a bill reintroduced this year. I think we're going to have to take it through the House so that we follow the appropriate steps outlined in the Constitution. But if that bill passes, every small business in the state would be able to take advantage of this opportunity to retroactively go back and get some federal refunds. We estimate this total amount of money that could flow back into the state of Colorado somewhere between $1 and $2 billion, and it flows directly back into the pockets of small business owners because it's a state and local tax bill that you'd generate. So hopefully we get some support, and we'll need some help explaining how that process works, but it's perhaps one of the biggest boosts back into small business without having to go through all of the PPP and RRF and all of the other acronyms we've become way too familiar with this past year. But I think that it will help our small businesses continue to recover from the mess we've seen the last year.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for all your efforts. I think Matthew Samuelson from Department of Revenue is on. There you are.
Hi, Tony, I am on, yeah.
I see you. And with that, I'd like to turn the program over to Matthew with the Colorado Department of Revenue, who will kick off the demonstration of the new Sales and Use Tax Simplification System, or Suts for short. This system's been a long time coming. Nfib is proud to have played a part along with the Colorado Coalition for Simplification of Sales Tax. And Matthew, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you steer the boat here.
Thank you, Tony. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Samuelson. I am the Deputy Director of the Taxation Division at the Colorado Department of Revenue. I've got a few of my colleagues or coworkers on the call with us today, and a couple of our partners from Ttr and GovOS, formerly known as MuniRevs, that are going to give you a demonstration today about the Suts system. I'm trying to share my screen here. I don't see it on my screen, but Tony, maybe you can tell me whether you see it on yours. Great.
Yes, I do see it.
Perfect. So I'm going to try to give you an introduction here, a very brief introduction about the Suts system. I know that Senator Woodward was talking about the Suts system when I jumped on. So, and I know you've heard from the Department of Revenue about it before. So I'm going to give you a very brief introduction, and then I want to turn it over to our partners at Ttr and GovOS to really give you a good idea of the functionality of the Suts system as well. And then at the end, I'll share some helpful links with you, and we'll try to take any questions that you might have regarding the Suts demonstration that we're going to provide today. So initially, I'd just like to give you an update on the number of home rule cities that are participating in the Suts system. 80% of the home rules in Colorado have joined Suts. That's 56 if we want to count them by number. Several cities have signed on to the Suts system, but they're still in the onboarding process and deciding when it's going to be a good time for them to be live in the system. So many of them are live, but not all of them are live. In the presentation here, you can see there's a link down on the bottom to the home rule cities that are live in the Suts system. And I shared that, I shared a copy of this presentation with Tony. I'm hoping he can share that with everyone who's participating in the call today so that you'll have access to that link. And if you're a business wondering which home rule cities are live in Suts, you can click on that link and it'll take you to an updated list that shows you which of those home rule cities are live in Suts, which are coming on board soon, and we're working to recruit all of the home rule cities to get them to participate if in fact they're interested and willing to do so. So I wanted to just give a real brief thumbnail of what is Suts, what is the Sales and Use Tax System. essentially, it's a tool designed to help businesses meet their compliance obligations with sales tax reporting in Colorado. There are two components to the Suts system. Our partners at TTR have a geographic information system that's designed to assist businesses in determining exactly how much tax to collect on any transaction. And then the other piece of Suts is done by our partners at GovOS, formerly known as MuniRevs. And that is the functionality for a business to use the system to file and remit taxes for both the state and any of the enrolled cities that are in the system. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily Foley at TTR to give us a demonstration about that side of the Suts program. Emily? Emily, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
There. Looks like she's trying to share her screen.
Well, I see she's not muted, but I'm not hearing anything come through.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. I'm sorry about that technical difficulty. So I'm going to share my screen and okay. Can you all see the Colorado sales tax lookup on your
Yes.
guys' screen?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So our system is to look like a Google search. And so we tried to make it as easy as possible so that it was all something everyone is extremely familiar with. So you can pinpoint down to an exact address or a city or where your business is, whatever you're looking for. You could also just search the whole map and look anywhere, and you'll always have that search for address button. Click up here. And so I'm going to just search for you guys in Denver. And so if you see, that brings you to the center of Denver, and it's where it believes that city center is. So it just lands there. You can also go down like any other Google search and go down to any level of business or location. So say I want to look at this Subway here, I can click there, and you'll notice it recenters to that location, and it uses the same type of mapping sourcing from Google. So you can use this map view that we're on, or you can use a satellite view and kind of look around where you are. And then you can even take this little guy and bring yourself down to Street View, and you can verify, oh yeah, that's the correct location I was looking for. There's the Subway. And over to the left, when you do that, it changes the details over here to exactly what you're looking for. So it changes to the address location. It gives you the lat and long for that location. And then the part that you all are probably very interested in is it also gives you the exact jurisdiction code for that location of what taxes you would pay. And then if you scroll down, it will give you the total rate. And so the total rate here is 8.81. And then underneath, it gives you the breakdown of what that includes. So of course it has the state, the city, and then the special districts all outlined for you all. And then here, it defaults to general merchandise. And so it just defaults like that's what this 8.81%, but you can click this yellow arrow here. And what that does is it breaks down and opens up to all the taxabilities in Denver. So you'll see things like such as food for home consumption is of course not taxable because it is exempt. And so if you scroll down, it now shows a no tax rate for that exact item. Also, if there's an item that might be both taxable or could be exempt, it will have this little bubble here that says some items might be included with this product, so you should check more details to their actual code if it applies to you. And then even we go a level further. So for Denver, we also have a special prepared food. So if we click here, you'll notice that it has a prepared food amount, and they actually have a reduced prepared food amount. So over here, it changes from sales tax to their prepared food tax. So going forward, we're going to be continuing to work on different items like that, that are specialty items, and have them be able to be pulled up. So any type of item can be, this is not just a sales and use tax, but right now, the primary goal for this lookup is for sales and use tax. So I'm going to go back to your general merchandise here, and then you'll see that there's a couple buttons that help you down here. So you have your current date. So for current, it's on today's date. But if you go, it can go historic. So whenever this has been implemented in the past, so Denver's completely onboarded. So when they onboarded, their old rate used to be a 4.31. I thought, yeah. It's supposed to, maybe, let's see, I go December 1. Yeah, so it increased last year. So if you'll see, it goes back down to that 4.31% to the historic rate. And then if they were going to have a rate change coming up, say they're going to change in January 2022, if they had given us that information, we'd have that in this system. Currently, we're going through all the changes now, so they should be updated shortly. But if they were going to change for January 1, what would happen was this 4.81% might become 4.9, or if they had a decrease, it could go down to 4.75. And the same thing with if the state was to ever change their rate, or the districts were to change their rate as well. So it stays historic, so you can go forward and backwards. And then also you can export. So like the rate. So if you're going to export for the 1st of 2022 and you want to verify that new rate, you can just press this export button here. And then it gives the location, the general merchandise, the tax details, and it shows you, it exports with that upcoming date, so that you can show whoever you're sharing this with that the new upcoming date is for the 1st of the year. And then you'll have the breakdown and of course the total. And then of course at the bottom it timestamps it for the date you actually exported it. So if anything was to change after November 18th, that would show why that was showing as that rate versus when it changed, maybe upcoming next week when we change different rates. You can also, I'll go back to the date for today, which is the 18th. And if you export it for today's date, all it does is just say tax rate details and give you the exported date. So that just allows that it just keeps the details completely correct across the board for future, or if you went past, so that you can always keep record. And then this is really great because it comes up as a PDF. So you can download this and save it. You can print it and share it, or you can just save it for your own records. So that's available for you. And then if you have any questions that you can't get answered here, you'll have this question button here, and that will open up to, if you can see this, the DOR Taxpayer Services question line from whatever email server you have. So if you have Google, it would automatically pop up in Google. If you have Outlook, it will automatically update in Outlook. And then lastly, there's this button here that's an overview, and this just gives a written overview of what each of these items are. So the location, product, services, and just a definition of just what I explained to you to the left. And then for understanding, if you come on here and you're like, I just forget what is happening with TTR, I don't remember what Emily said in her presentation, or I want a better explanation, just a refresher or whatever, there's these buttons up here that are helpful links. And so you have here, this brings you to just a welcome page, explains kind of what the lookup is. And then you have this video here that's a training video, and that will just literally walk you through what I just walked you through today. And I will just go step by step the different system and how it works. And then lastly, this is just the same thing, just a written explanation of the same exact training. If you do better just reading through and walking through it with a written document. And then lastly, we have this button here, and this brings you over to the MuniRevs website. And so that it's all circular, so you can always get to where you need to go. And of course, you can get back to our lookup from their website as well. So it all is very, very helpful to go from place to place to where you need to go, from our site to their site and back again. So we tried to make this as easy as possible to use. And also, if you need to do multiple locations because you have more than one location, we also do offer an API that you can link up to your system as well. So we have that so that you're not looking up each individual. Say you have 7 subway locations, you're not looking up each and every subway. You just can link straight to that in the item number. And that's pretty much it on the GIS side. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. So great demonstration of the GIS side. Let me now turn it over to Aaron Yar. He's with our partner, GovOS, and Aaron will give you some information about the filing and remittance portal. Aaron?
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. My name's Aaron. I work with GovOS. A few months ago, we were called MuniRevs, and now we're on the GovOS team, just in case anybody's heard of MuniRevs before, so that's clear. Yeah, so I'm going to take you through Suts and the remittance side of things. Let me share my screen real quick, and we should land right where Emily left off. Thank you for that, where she kind of clicked the link to go over. Sorry, I don't use Teams a whole lot. Let's go with this one. Hopefully that is showing my whole screen. Please, at any point, interrupt if you have a question. Feel free. We'll ask questions at the end as well. But this demo is for you guys, and obviously I'm not. I know the system. I'm just here to help you guys figure out how this can best be used for your unique situation. So if you do have a question, something comes up, don't hesitate, please. So this is the welcome screen. This is where you'll start, the URL being colorado.munirevs.com. There's a link to this from CDOR's website, from the TTR website, like Emily was saying. Here's the link that she pointed out back to TTR if you need to get there. There's a little video here on how to register. If you need some help after this, you can click that and you'll hear my voice again. If you're a new user, this is where you're going to start right here on the left. But before I get there, I just want to talk about some of these links we have, just informational before you get started. Again, this is the tax filing portal. So, you know, the first of the month comes around and you can file taxes for the previous month, or if it's quarter or year, you can do all of that in here. The deadline is the 20th of every month. It's the Colorado standard. Over here, we have some FAQs that just kind of talk through different questions you might have, some contact information for the Department of Revenue. They are the primary support contact for business users. So the DOR is going to support all the business users, and if they have any issue that they need to escalate to us, something technical they're not quite sure how to figure out or help with, then we definitely help with any of those tickets that kind of come through that need more help. I think Matt or someone was talking about participating home rule jurisdictions. We have a link here to that, and I'll get into more about how to look at that later. There's just some general information here about how to find your Colorado account number, your state revenue ID, just to help you kind of get into the system and figure out how to start filing taxes. So you can click the logo here at any time to go back home. Again, there's some getting started information in text as well, in addition to that video. If you're a bulk filer, there's some information here about that, and there's more once you get into the system. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. So I'm going to click on this link to go to participating jurisdictions. And this is going to show you which jurisdictions here on the left are live in Suts. So these are the ones you can file for today. You can file into all of these jurisdictions with one upload, one Excel file, and it'll pay all of them at the same time. So once you've done this in Suts, your liability is complete. We send that to each of these jurisdictions and split it all up for you. There's a list of jurisdictions coming soon. Hopefully a lot of these will be very soon. A lot of them is just timing with the jurisdictions, figuring out when's ideal for them to go live in the system, when they're ready to handle it, things like that. I know that some of these are going to be coming as early as next week. A couple of these will be on next week is the planned date. So we're constantly getting new ones in the system. Like Matt said, 80% are in there right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go through, or I'm just going to log in myself. But when you click this, it's just to kind of give you an overview. It's going to ask for an email address. You put in your email, you click continue. It sends you a link. You open your email, click the link, and then it's going to bring you back here to set up a password. So we're just doing that so we verify it's a real email, that it works, and you can get communication that way. Then you set up a password. Once you set up a password, you're in the system, and I'll just get logged in here because I'm already in the system. This little extra security thing I'm doing right now, you're not going to have to do. That's only for admin users. Cool. So now I'm in the system. This is what we call the Business Center. When you first register, it's going to take you directly to this page. So you won't go straight to the Business Center because we assume the first thing you need to do is register your business in Suts, that you're not already registered if you're creating a new login for the first time. So a Suts registration is just a informational registration. It's not a license or anything. It's just so we have information in the system to know what business you are, so that we can file on your behalf. So we need your FEIN or SSN, your state revenue ID number, things like that. I'll go through a registration sort of halfway in our other testing environment I'm going to get to in a second, so I don't do it in this live production site here and create some bad information. But basically, you'll just click this and register. If you're a bulk filer, that means you're a tax firm, accountant that files on behalf of multiple businesses at once. You can also use our system to do that. And you can, with one upload, you can file with many on behalf of many businesses. I'm not sure if that's the crowd today, so I'm not going to go into that. I think it's more the individual businesses. I just want you to know that's a possibility. If your accountant needs to get in the system and register, they can register as a bulk filer. And that allows them to use what's called XML to upload. So it's just a different file format that can contain many businesses at once. If you're an individual business filing for yourself, you can register this way and use the Microsoft Excel format to upload your tax form to the system. So this is where you'll start. Once you register, you'll go back to the Business Center here, or at any time you can click the logo and go back to the Business Center. Just a quick overview. There's, again, all the information we saw on that login page is here as well. You can get to the FAQs. There's a lot more information here. The participating jurisdictions is here as well. There's instructions on how to file and all the different activities you might do in the system. There's a quick link directly here to the Excel instructions. So here's step-by-step Excel, how to file. You can follow these instructions at any time. And we'll get into that, and I'll do a filing with you guys real quick. This add or remove takes you back to the page we were just on, where you can register for the first time to add a business. Deduction codes. So this is going to take you to a spreadsheet. Well, first it talks about what deduction codes are and how to use them. But if you click this link here, it takes you to a spreadsheet that shows you all of the allowed deductions in every jurisdiction in the system. So if you go through these tabs, this is each jurisdiction in the system. It tells you what their jurisdiction code is and the allowed deductions for that jurisdiction. And we'll get into how to use these in a second. Just want you to know this sheet is available. It's a great resource to reference to know what you're allowed to claim in each jurisdiction. And then the first tab is just the state. So these are the state deductions jurisdictions. Not all of the state one is unique. All of the home rules, if it's here, it's accepted. The state one, there's some of these exemptions are not accepted in certain jurisdictions, and all that's kind of automatic. If you claim it and it's not allowed, you won't be able to claim it in the system. It kind of checks all that. But this is just listing all the possible options, but there's so many different, RTD, a metro district, different things that accept certain exemptions and not others. But the deductions up here should be allowed across the board. So that's just a reference that you can use at any time to build your filing spreadsheet. So let me go back to the Business Center, get rid of these tabs. Great. So now these buttons here are critical for filing, and we'll do that in a minute. But basically, every month you can come in here, create a tax form, sort of like an upload file, upload to 100 jurisdictions at once. You can pay the state as well as the local entities at the same time. And you'll do that with this button right here once you're in the system. On the left, oh, and again, here's those TTR links as well. So this goes straight to the TTR page Emily showed you. This link is actually a tool we worked with TTR to put into our system that allows you to generate an API key. If you're a big business and you want to use the API and not look up individual locations, you can generate your unique API key with this button here. That'll allow you to access TTR automatically that way. On the left is all your open tasks. So you're creating your own open tasks here on the left. And I guess I should say also, if someone from Nfib wants to help with questions or interrupt or anything, please feel free to do so. I'm not checking the chat as I'm doing this. And we'll, again, do questions at the end too. If you want to hold till then, that's fine. So on the left here, these bars are businesses. These are just test businesses that I've made in the system. I can manage 5 businesses at once. I can manage 10 businesses, doesn't matter. Similarly, 10 users can manage 1 business. So I made my own email login, my own user login with a password, and I attached myself or registered for a business. If a business is already registered and you have your accountant, you have the president, multiple people that want to log in and manage it, they can click this link here, add or remove a registered business. It's already written in the system. You can give them your account number and activation code. They can type that in, look it up, and add the business here. And that way 10 people can be, managing the same business. And where that activation code is down here at the bottom. This account number activation code is what you'll give someone else in your company that you want to help manage Suts. You can give them that information, they can attach to the business, and you can both see the same information in the business center. So if one of you creates the new task, basically like every time you click this button and go through that process, it creates one of these tasks. Like here's my quarter ending March, so there's my Q1 tax form. The other person will see this task as well. So if they click into it, they can finish it for you if you started it. So these are just the businesses and these are the tasks available. Here's a registration form I didn't finish. I can come back and finish it later. Once you've completed a filing, down here is the activity section. This is all your history. So this shows every month or quarter or year that you filed, the amount that you paid. And then you can click on the form and see the information itself or your receipt. In the future, if you need some records, you can come down here and get them anytime. So now I'm going to get into actually doing a filing. I'm going to switch over to our internal test environment that we use. So I'm not creating bad information in the state system. So when you're ready to file, or actually, I guess I'll just kind of show you the registration first. So let's just create a business here. You're just going to put your name in there. You're going to click one of these business types, these categories. That's just for the state's information to categorize. This is just also informational. It doesn't affect what you can do in the system. It's just so if CDOR's contacting you for help, they kind of know who they're talking to as one of the users. Don't worry too much about that as far as which one you pick. And then this is just whether you're inside or outside Colorado. And then you're going to hit continue. And this is just the first time you're registering your business in Suts. You may already have registered with the state. You have a state revenue ID, which you should have if you're paying taxes at all in the state. And if that's the case, you still need to register in Suts so that we know which business you are. This is just some information about the registration process. Anytime you want to move on, you click submit here, or you can return to Business Center. So please read that when you go through this. And then this is a form you can fill out. I'll just throw in some information so that we can get, move through it. I'm not trying to pick anything correct here, just going to use whatever autofill stuff comes up in my system. So this is all contact information, business physical address, mailing address, who your tax remitter is. So if it's separate, if it's a different company, then their contact information there. First day of business in Colorado, and then here's where you put your FEIN, or you can click SSN if that's what you need to use. Your Secretary of State ID if you have one. This field is optional. And then here's where you put your Colorado account number. So this is where you'll put your 8-digit Colorado account number, sales tax ID, state revenue ID, whatever you want to call it. It's on different records you have, and we have a FAQ on how to find this number. You put this in here, and then you click Lookup if you are an existing business. It says it needs to be 8 digits. Did that wrong. So once you have matching cans in here, you would click Find Accounts, and it'll pull in all of your existing locations that you've registered with the state. If you don't have a state revenue ID, you just click No right here. And then it's going to actually take you after this form to the application to get a state revenue ID. So if you're a brand new business that was just created, you can still use the system, apply for a state license, and then file right away. This question is asking if you have more than one location in the state, and that would be other than this one you've already registered up here as your primary location. So if you have 5 subways, you can say, yes, I have more locations here. I mean, if you have them already established, you've probably gone through this process. But if you're brand new in a and you're have multiple locations that you need to register all at once, you can click yes. And then it's going to take you, and I will not fill out the whole thing to save time, but it's going to take you to the full application to get a sales tax license. There's going to be some informational messages you can click through to talk about this process, or you should read them definitely. I'm going to click through is what I mean. And here's the actual state revenue withholding account application. So I'm not going to fill this out, but this is the full form that you would do through the department directly. But now it's been transferred here to Suts. So a lot of information here that helps set up your account. When you submit this, if you click you have additional locations, it's going to ask for each location on a separate task. And then at the end, it's going to take you to a fee. Every 6 months, the fee amount changes. It's a 2-year license, I believe. And so whatever the cost is right now, it'll add that to the cart. You're going to pay it. As soon as you pay, it generates a state revenue ID and gives it to you, and you're ready to use the system. So I'm going to go back to the business center because I've already registered. Here's that test business I just made, and here's the application I haven't finished yet that you can come back to and finish at any time. This, I'm going to use a different business to file right now and show you how to do that. So once you've registered in the system, you're going to click File Taxes here via Upload. And if you want to, you can create your Excel file ahead of time by clicking Create Custom Tax Filing Template. But I'm going to just go through this process because that button presents itself in multiple places. You'll see it again as we're filing as well. Quick caveat, if you want to see what locations you have registered with the state, you can click this, one of these links up here. These are 3 different businesses I have, and it'll take you to this page where it shows you all the locations that are registered. This is a test account, so it's it's not real information here. But it tells you each of these rows is a location. It doesn't have to be a physical location. So each of these rows is where you're liable to pay tax. You need a location registered with the state for everywhere you sell into. And Cedar, please, if you want to speak to this anymore, please do. But that's my understanding is you need a location for everywhere you register in or you sell into. So if it's not a physical location, you still need to register every jurisdiction that you're going to pay tax to. So with the state, you might have 100 locations, 100 jurisdictions you're paying into that are state administered locations. We just have this one here on this test account. And then you can tell us a state location. It says state, so it's a state administered location where they collect the tax on behalf of either the city or the county or the transit district or whatever the special districts are. If it says local, that means it's a local home rule location that you are paying directly to the home rule. It doesn't go through the state, it's totally separate. And you can see your local account number here. You can see what jurisdiction ID it is and the jurisdiction name here, Vail. So that's just a way to, and you can look up, if you have 200 locations that you're paying into, you can look up one of them just by searching here. If you need to add a new home rule location, you just registered in a new home rule, you can click the city here, type in your account number, and then hit search. And if it finds your account number in the system, meaning that that home rule has told us that this account exists, let them, add the number here. Then you can add that and we hit search and it'll add it as a row down here. Again, here's where you can create your custom Excel file, which I'll show you in a second. So all of that is just this is just a resource page. You can come to see all the locations you have registered, see if you need to add more locations with the state directly. So now we're going to click File Taxes here via Excel upload.
It says 16 on the title, but you guys have it as a 17, so we're going to have to change it.
You're going to pick the business that you want to file for. So I'm going to use my city test business. Pick the period or the year, sorry, and then the period that you want to file for. I'm not sure which of these months I've filed for in the past, but if you've already filed for a month, it won't let you redo it. So it'll tell you, like I believe this one's been filed for. So it'll say a filing already exists for this period date. So you're not refiling for the same period. So let's pick another one, see if I can, if I've filed for it already. Great. So let me create a filing return for September. Here again is that custom template download. So if you click that, it's going to download a pre-built Excel template for you that has all of your local account numbers in it. You're just going to open that. And I have another one, this one that you're seeing here, that we're going to actually use with gross revenue put into it. But this is just to show you what it looks like when you download a brand new template. There's instructions on the first sheet or tab. And then the second tab is all of the, each of these rows is basically a tax return. So these are all the locations you're going to file into. These all say local because they're going just to the home rule. It'll say state if it's going to the state. There's just that one location we have for this company. If you are paying a local, you should definitely also have a state, ID number for that same location. This again is a test account, so it's not set up correctly. But if I have these 4 local accounts that have account numbers, I should, also be paying into these places for the state as well and have those 4 locations here, and it'll generate that for you. The reason these are all here and are blank is because I do not have a local account number in these jurisdictions. But we include them to let you know that it's possible to file into these locations in Suts. So if you say, oh, I should have a account number in Cortez, let me go get that account number and add it. You'll need to add it on that other page I showed you where you look up the number first before you generate the Excel file, and it'll include it here. If you add it here without it being attached in the Suts system, it'll say we don't have this account number for you. So you'll need to add it there. Then you can put it in your Excel filing here and file for them. So we're just letting you know they all exist. Also, you don't legally have to have an account number to use Suts in the sense that you can file into all of these jurisdictions without putting your local account number in here. And that's kind of a decision CDOR made to make this process easier and to comply with Wayfair, in that you basically don't need to go through all of the individual process of every jurisdiction to file in here, and you can just file directly. Now, whether or not these jurisdictions follow up like they were saying earlier with you individually is up to each jurisdiction, but we're not going to stop you from filing whether you put a local account number in or not. It is best to include one so the jurisdiction knows who you are and they don't bug you afterwards, but if you don't have one, you can still file. So I'm going to go to an actual Excel file that we're going to use, but you can also, if you don't put a gross amount in, then you're not filing for that jurisdiction. Keep that in mind. Uploading this file here does not satisfy liability in any of these places if you have it, because there's no gross amount here. So it's not going to create a tax form. It's going to ignore all the rows that doesn't have a gross amount. It's only going to use the rows that have values. I'm not editing, have values in here. So you can, just delete all the rows if you want to get them out of your way, or you can just leave the gross amount blank. Either way, it's up to you. Some people, if you for some reason want to file just to all the local home rules, and not to the state or vice versa, you can do that in Suts. Suts is not the system of record for the state. They have another system for that. So you might choose to use that system for the state and use this for all the home rules. I would encourage you to do everything in here so it's simple and it's all in one place and you're not going back and forth. But just want to let you know this is just a portal to get to remit to whoever you need to. We're not monitoring who's remitted for what months, whether you've satisfied all liability or not. That's still up to you to figure out with each jurisdiction. So I'm going to close this Excel file and open one that I have prepared to file with. So here's those same accounts you saw at the bottom for testing. Here's the jurisdiction names, and these are just random gross amounts I put in here. And I'm going to talk about how to file with deductions. I think there's some questions popping up. Let me see if I should answer them right now. Will filing through Suts replace filing through Revenue Online, State of Colorado? I believe so. Yes, if you file through Suts, you don't have to file through Revenue Online. If it's sales tax, if there's other things you're doing on Revenue Online besides sales tax, then you'll probably still need to do those there. Renewing your state license is another thing you have to do through Revenue Online. It's not a feature in Suts yet. You can just apply for a license for the first time, but we don't have renewals in there. So you'll need to do that through Revenue Online. So your Revenue Online account will probably, remain active for a long time, if not forever. And you'll need to do some things there, but paying sales tax to the state can all be satisfied through Suts, and you don't have to go to Revenue Online at all to do that. So that was Gary's question, looks like. When we sell to a contractor who has paid for his permit, we charge them state, county, and RTD, but not city, as he has paid that with his permit fees. Is there an option to account for this in Suts? I'm not entirely sure what the question is, but I think you're saying that can you separate out the state, county, RTD from the city? If it's a home rule, yes. So let's assume, so this is Lakewood down here that I'm paying to the state. Let's assume this is Lakewood as well, that I'm paying to the city. So if it says here local, this is going to the city, this is going to the state. They're separate tax returns. And if this is, $1 million or whatever that is, then this should also be $1 million. You should be claiming the same gross amount, both for local and for the state, and it's going to charge you different rates. So this row, this tax return that you're filing to the city is only charging you that city rate. This is charging you the state, county, whatever RTD tax districts are involved in that jurisdiction, this location here. It's going to charge you all of those together with this return. So you can't pay for just the county and not the state, but you can pay for the state administered bundle in this jurisdiction ID. And leave out local, or pay for local and leave out state. It's up to you. And again, you may or may not be satisfying all your liabilities, but you can separate out city from state if it's a home rule city that self-collects. So I hope that answered that question, and ask it again if not. So we still need to register individually with every city. I think this is regarding what the senator was talking about with that new bill that's going to try and remove that need to license with every city. I believe as of now, again, not a lawyer, talk to your accountant or talk to CDOR or the city itself. I believe as of now, if you have physical nexus in a city, you have to license with them. Depending on if you're a remote seller outside the state, if you have economic nexus, you may or may not need to license with them directly. It depends on, there's a lot of legalities in there, and you'll need to research it with someone more qualified than I. I just know how to use Suts and can answer any questions about the system. Are we able to alternate between filing methods? In other words, can we file through Suts one month, then through the city state portal next month? Absolutely. Yeah, again, we're not the system of record. So the question being, can you file with the city directly in October and then file with Suts in November and go back and forth? You absolutely can. We're not the system of record for anyone, so we just are a portal to get the returns through to the proper party. But you can go to the city directly and file or use Suts. Either way, it satisfies the same. It does the same thing. It gives the tax form and the money to the city that you're trying to file to. Looks like Luann's answering a question for Mike, so please check that out in the chat. So I think that's all the questions right now. So I'm going to go through this Excel file a little more, and I think we're running out of time here. So basically, and please jump in if anybody, if you feel like we only have a couple minutes or something, let me know. But hopefully this is useful for the businesses. Just wanted to let you know that this is the gross amount. Oh, and first that there's instructions on the first tab. So please read through these and it'll tell you how to use this sheet. This is the gross amount. That's really all you have to do. If you also need deductions, you're going to pick your deduction in these columns here. By default, the Excel sheet includes all of the state deductions and exemptions, and you'll see that here, Schedule A, deductions, Schedule B, exemptions. If you put a number here for a state, these are all only state. If they say Schedule A or B, it's only state exemptions and deductions. If you put a number here, it's not going to be used towards this local jurisdiction. You have to use a local deduction, and that's where that other Google sheet I showed it comes in. If you need to go here and find a deduction, you're going to take this number, take this word, and post that in the Excel spreadsheet. We don't automatically include all of the local home rule deductions because every home, there's 70 of them, 56 are signed on right now, but they all have their own deductions, and this sheet would just get huge and hard to sort through. So we just include the state ones because that's probably what you're using every month by default. And then if you want to add your own home rule deductions, you can. So I added a couple just as examples. Here's a deduction number 1, non-taxable service sales, and 10 other deductions. I know those are accepted in Vail, so I'm going to claim those in Vail and put those here. Again, they're separate from state, so you can't use these for state and you can't use these for local. If you never use some of these, like you're the same, you do the same sales every month, you're obviously the same business every month. You can delete these and get them out of your way so your sheet gets smaller, and just keep the deductions that you care about, and then use that same sheet every month. Same with the rows. If you want to get rid of all of those local rows that don't have a license in, you get rid of those. Tailor your sheet exactly to what you need and keep that every month. The only time you'll want to update your sheet is if you're adding more locations. So then you would go into Suts, add the home rule location, create a new sheet, and then recreate it to what you need. But if you're sticking with the same 20 jurisdictions every month, day in, day out, you can just reuse the same sheet every month and just change the gross amounts and the deduction amounts as needed, and then just keep this template. I would encourage you to rename the template or the file every month so you have a record and you know what you're paying. But again, get rid of any columns you don't need or rows you don't need to make the sheet more usable for you. Here's my deductions that I'm claiming for the state down here, and these will not work in Vail because these are state deductions only. You'll need to put those over here. So I'm just kind of showing you that for Vail because they're a home rule location here. You should also have a state location for Vail down here. But I believe this was Timnath. If this was a real filing, it would also have state location for Vail, and you would put those deductions, maybe here for the city and here for the state, depending on if they match and which one you're trying to claim. So I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to go upload it. Oh, whoops, let me pull that back up. So here's the template I can download. I did that already. I have my template. Great. Here's where I upload. So you just choose your Excel file. I believe it's this one, open and submit. And now it's processing your file, figuring out all the deductions, all the jurisdictions. It's creating a separate tax form for every jurisdiction that you're filing for. So here's your summary page. This is your total gross sales you're claiming across all of your jurisdictions. And then, down here at the very bottom, here's your total amount due. This is what you're going to pay today. You can sign it and submit, and it'll go to the cart. So I'm going to put my name in here. Title, just want to show you real quick, there's a summary view you can click that'll pull up an Excel table of all the jurisdictions, kind of like your Excel file. And you can look at everything all at once, or you can go to a specific jurisdiction like Vail and see what your tax form to Vail looks like. This is just what's going to Vail. Your gross sales, you can add bad debts, you can add excess tax down here. Excess tax is typed in manually in the form. It's not in the Excel form. And then you can review the deductions by clicking this drop down. You can see that $100 we claimed, and then the other deduction, $200 that we claimed there. So you go to the bottom, here's the total of just what you're paying to Vail down here. If you go to Lakewood, this is just to the state. So here you can see the breakdown of what's going to the city of Lakewood, that's state administered. And this is a special small, probably not the best example, state section of Lakewood, separate from the city. It's not really in Lakewood, actually. This is not in Lakewood, but it's called city because it's a small little area that's state administered. But anyway, CD, county, LID, state, this is going directly to state. Here's the RTD. So it's breaking down all the different jurisdictions or districts or rates within this jurisdiction code of Lakewood. And showing you what is due in each of these, what's getting paid in each of these, and then the total for each of these. So these are the different rates that Emily was going over that make up the total rate. Here's the total due. So when you're ready, you just click submit. It's going to take you to the cart, and it's one tax return. So you have one file. I did another one earlier as a test, so we can get rid of that one and just pay this one if you want. You can add or remove if you have 5 tax forms you're paying for 5 different businesses. You can add or remove them here and pay them all at the same time in the cart. Here's the one that we're paying that I just did today, and it's going to be paying 10 jurisdictions or however many, but it's just this one payment that you're doing in the system. You click payment method and then select how you want to pay. So because our amount is over 5,000, the credit card option is removed. If you're under 5,000, you can pay by credit card. If you want to pay by e-check, it's going to cost you $1. Processing fee, credit card is 3%, or maybe it's 3.3, I forget, somewhere around there, fee for credit card. If you're over $10,000, then there's a small percentage as well that's added for e-check. If you're a high revenue business and you're paying a lot of tax, you can always do ACH credit, which is free. And you do that outside the system. You basically say when you're going to pay, when you're going to send the money. So I'm going to send it tomorrow, and then I'm going to click pay now. And now my tax return's complete. And I'm going to wire that money tomorrow through my bank separately without, the fees of credit card processing. And so that system allows you to do that. You've now, completed the form, and the money does have to actually go through to the account. And if it doesn't, after a while, we reach out to the business, we figure out what's going on. Why has the money not come through? Did you try? Let's try again. And if eventually there's no money ever comes through, then the tax return does get rejected and doesn't go through to all the jurisdictions. So here's your receipt. It shows you what you've paid into each jurisdiction. So you can see sales tax for Vail, separate from Lakewood. These are all the state jurisdictions within that location. And then it shows you that total down there. This is the payment you made, and now you're done. So I talked through a lot, but really, if you're all set up and you're coming in here every month, all you're doing is creating the form, uploading your Excel file with the gross sales, and then paying, and you're done every month to pay into all those jurisdictions. Hopefully that was thorough and not too long. Thank you for listening. Is there anything I missed? Any questions?
Last chance for questions. Looks like you covered it.
Awesome. Hopefully all the chat questions are answered as well.
Matt, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, let me just double back on one of those questions that was posted in the chat about whether or not Suts is replacing Revenue Online. I just want to clarify that Suts it's an additional tool available to businesses to meet their obligations. So it's not intended to replace Revenue Online. It's just another option available so that a business can decide what's the best way for them to fulfill their filing and remittance obligations. So just to know there. Let me get back to see if I can, oops, I'm hitting
Absolutely.
on the wrong thing.
Thanks for clarifying, Matt. And I'll say if you do need to add locations in Suts to pay into new jurisdictions, all that happens through Revenue Online. So there's a lot of things that complement Suts by doing them through Revenue Online.
Right. Thanks again, Aaron. So I just wanted to share one more slide with everyone. I know that Aaron and Emily both indicated that their systems are chock full of lots of helpful information to navigate the process. The Department of Revenue's website also has information to help businesses come on board with Suts. So this slide includes a helpful link that'll take you to our website where there are lots of how-to videos and other information that'll walk you through how to register in Suts as a new user, how to add existing businesses to your account, how to apply for a Colorado account number. This is just a screenshot of a portion of that screen. There are lots of links, lots of videos, lots of information there to try to ease the process and help you navigate the process if you're interested in doing that. And again, Tony, I shared those slides with you. I would encourage you just to push those out to our audience today so that they can take advantage of the links that are in there. Okay.
All righty.
And I think
see one more question by Amber. Is that okay if we answer that?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go
Aaron.
ahead.
Thank you. It just came in. Oh, it looks like Luann's trying to answer it in the chat, but basically she's asking if you can file to the whole state with one line, and it's not possible because every area within the state has different rates of tax. So if you're only selling into one location, like you only sell to this address in Denver, then yeah, you would have one state line to satisfy that. But if you sell to Denver, Boulder, Breckenridge, all these different cities, each of those will have a different state line, every location. And there's a map that basically, this area has this rate, this area has this rate. So any of those groups of areas would need its own line in the Excel file. So my example had one state line just because it was the test account that I could find. But you'll have probably a lot of state lines and probably more state lines than you do local lines in your Excel file.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. So let me just wrap up by saying thank you to Emily and Aaron one more time for walking through those demonstrations of their respective pieces of the Suts system. And I also want to say thank you to you, Tony, and to NFIB for inviting us to come in today and give you these demonstrations today. We think this is a valuable tool for businesses to meet their compliance obligations. So we hope people will take a look at it, and we hope people will take advantage of the tool that we're trying to help put out there to ease those compliance obligations moving forward. And I also want to say thank you to Luann, my colleague, who jumped in the chat and I know answered some of those questions that came up in the chat as well. So thank you everyone for having us.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for everybody being on the call today. And I do want to give a shout out to the Department of Revenue, NFIB, in our work with the Coalition to Simplify Colorado Sales Tax, have sincerely enjoyed the working relationship and partnership we've had with Department of Revenue. And what we saw today would not have been possible without that partnership. And also I'd like to give a shout out to the Colorado Municipal League as being a valuable partner of ours in this project. So thank you to our members who have joined and the guests who have taken time to be on this call. If you'd like to know more about NFIB, if you're not a member, please go to nfib.com. If you think of any additional questions you'd like to ask, feel free to email myself or Jake. I posted our email addresses in the chat, and we'll share them with the appropriate person. One last thing, NFIB for members does have an action alert available on the website. I want to remind you to take them in right after this call and fill out the important action alert: no tax increases on small businesses. This can be done in the NFIB app or online, and Jake will share that link in the chat. And I think he already has. Have you? Or
I am right now.
all right. And with that, Jake, thank you for your help. Matt and everybody with Department of Revenue, thank you to the members and guests on the call. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this. It's a valuable tool there for your benefit. So I thank everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.